Every time I feel my body lean, I always hear a soft voice in my ears. Sweet female voice. Talking non-stop. I don't know where it came from. I see on the stereoscopic virtual screen. A planet appears. Then it quickly disappeared. I see a diagram of where we're going. Sometimes they go in a straight line. Instead of flying in a straight line, when I close my eyes, it feels like the UFO doesn't exist anymore. It was pitch black. My body is alone in space, like an infinite abyss falling at a constant speed. This feeling scares me. I had to open my eyes. After they started the ship, nothing happened. Have those robots look at a three-dimensional virtual screen. Operate the spaceship. And we started talking. I'm curious about this ship. Just ask about the spaceship we are in. It's the flying saucer we Earthlings often refer to. Yes, it's a flying saucer. The saucer flies very fast, doesn't it? I saw we had a magazine that said, UFOs can travel at the fastest speed of light. That's 300,000 kilometers per second. Is that so? Yes, UFOs move at the fastest speed of light. Soodle says a flying saucer has 3 time and space states. One is the heuristic state of zero mass. In this state, the saucer is stationary. Mass is zero. There is a certain quality of movement, and always moving at the speed of light. UFO this state. In fact, in nature, the space-time state of light is the same. The second is the quasi-base state of micromass. In the case of flying saucers, mass according to your earthly standards, only about 1/10,000 gram, can be still. It can also fly at any speed, less than the speed of light. It can hover in the air above your planet. It can also be excited to a zero mass excitation state at any time. 3 is in a normal state. UFO completely stationary. The quality inside. Volume change power system shut down. Has a mass as certain as that of a normal object. Your flying saucers are so awesome. What is the principle of its flight? Must be complicated and profound. The principle of flying a flying saucer is actually very simple. In your Chinese, the description is just one sentence. Soodle said that any object in the universe, if you make his mass O, the instant it becomes 0, will suddenly move at the speed of light. So this is how a light-speed flying saucer works. The principle of flying a flying saucer is so simple. It was beyond my expectations. But how can you make an object's mass become 0? And I think that's a real problem. Norton explains. In nature, there are 2 very different forms of exercise. One is quantitative change. One is qualitative change. Normal exercise is quantitative change. Your scientists on Earth, Newton and Galileo, both describe the movement very well. Aircraft controlled by you Earthlings. The principle of motion of the car is to observe conservation of momentum. The momentum on your planet is mass times speed. Force is how much momentum changes over time. Your plane, it can only fly in the Earth's atmosphere. And on our planet, momentum is a vector. The speed of light minus the speed of motion of the object. Multiply by the mass of the object. Count this momentum backwards to the sphere of time. 4 forces emerge. These are the 4 fundamental forces of the universe. Object force. It's how much the momentum of an object changes with time. But it's just that the mass changes over time. When the saucer mass first started to decrease, speed is constant. When the UFO mass is reduced to O, the speed suddenly changes to the speed of light. The change in saucer speed is sudden. From 0, can suddenly reach the speed of light. The speed of the flying saucer, only an initial velocity at the beginning. And the speed of light, Change is not continuous. Norton went on to say, the principle of motion of our flying saucers. It's another form of exercise. That's qualitative change. That is, the quality of the flying saucer can change over time. This is called massing motion on our planet. When the mass of this flying saucer, from a certain quantity to O, the saucer doesn't need to be accelerated any harder. It will continue to move inertia at the speed of light, unless there are internal or external reasons. To change this state of motion, any object in the universe that is still relative to us, surrounding space, both diverge around at the vector speed of light. This one, it's what gives matter mass and charge. Mass represents the speed of light around an object. Number of spatial displacements. If you find a way, disappears the speed of light in the space around the object. Then the object has no mass. No mass. Objects with zero mass do not require additional force. Must be moving at the speed of light relative to us. The reason behind this is, all objects in the universe have a static momentum. That's the mass times the vector speed of light. And the stationary momentum and the moving momentum are both conserved. If an object moves at the speed of light, the velocity component of the momentum of motion becomes zero. Mass is partly conserved because of momentum. Becomes infinite. Infinity is something we hate. We hate it. Infinity if it doesn't appear. There is another possibility. That is, rest mass is zero. If the rest mass is O, causes a stationary momentum of zero, and the quantities of stationary momentum and motion momentum are equivalent, causes the momentum to be equal to zero. The result is that the object is moving at the speed of light. In your theory of relativity on Earth, recognizing the power of rest, but did not recognize the generation of resting energy. The source is resting momentum. I seem to understand something. It seems that flying saucers are about converting mass into speed. Speed converts to quality. I asked. So your UFO can travel at the speed of light? I read it in books about our planet. In space, stars are usually many light years away. Your flying saucers travel at the speed of light. It will take many years. How do you say it only takes a few hours to fly to your planet? Are you close to us? Or have you been hiding near us? Norton explained that when an object moves at the speed of light, length of space along the direction of motion, it will be shortened to zero. Norton's words surprised me. Soodle added, "That's what you Earthlings say. Far away. Near." I asked, "If the length of space in the direction of motion becomes O, so when you flying saucers travel at the speed of light, doesn't it take time? Then why do you say, how many hours will it take for the flying saucer to fly back to your planet?" Norton explains. For example, a flying saucer weighing 450 tons. When the flying saucer takes off, if you go from 450 tons to zero, this process takes time. This is called transitioning the space-time state. And when the UFO lands, from zero mass back to 450 tons, this process also takes time. In fact, when UFOs were on our planet, first, we use external field energy. Reduce the mass of the flying saucer to a tiny amount. For example, 0.45 grams. Reach quasi-excited state. When taking off, using the energy carried by the saucer itself, change the UFO from 0.45 grams to zero. Once the quality of the flying saucer changes to zero, in the excited state, no additional force is required. It must suddenly move at the speed of light. When the flying saucer arrives on your Earth, it's not 450 tons. It's a tiny amount. This is done to save energy. Because the quality of the flying saucer changes, it is necessary to convert the time and space state. It requires a lot of energy, and the saucer itself cannot carry too much energy. When there is a thin gas in front of the flying saucer, when flying a flying saucer with zero mass, it collides with these rarefied gases with zero force. There is no interaction between air and flying saucers, and the mass of these gases is too small. Can't change the space-time state of the flying saucer. UFOs can also create repulsion fields. Just push the gas away. Since the nature of the field is to be cylindrical, spiral motion. Space is invisible. Matter and air friction produce no sound. These two approaches can make flying saucers fly in the air. It doesn't make a sound. But if you encounter a planet, due to the high quality, if you don't evade, UFOs will get in. The flying saucer will soon transition to a space-time state. Transition from excited state to normal space-time state. This flying saucer is going to have an accident. If there was a way to transform an entire planet into a space-time state, become zero mass, that flying saucer can pass through the entire planet without resistance. But actually, there's nothing we can do. Transform the entire planet into a space-time state. The reason is that the energy required is too huge, so we can only avoid the planet. When avoiding the planet, the flying saucer needs to change state. If our flying saucer is in flight, no planetary barrier, the saucer just takes off with a mass of zero. This process takes time. When we reach the planet, when the saucer lands, the mass changes from zero to a tiny amount. It takes time, and mid-flight doesn't take time. The time spent in flight, mainly transforming the space-time state to avoid the planet. Soodle says that according to your theory of relativity on Earth, suppose our planet is 50 light-years away from your Earth. A flying saucer departed from our planet. Fly to your planet at the speed of light and return to you immediately. Our planet and our people all think. It takes 100 years for a flying saucer to go back and forth. It's just that the passengers inside the flying saucer think. It only takes a few hours to go back and forth. I asked Soodle, is what you said true? If it is true, on your planet, I also have to wait for you to come back slowly. It's not easy for you to come to Earth. Soodle says, real situation. Also consider the relationship between our planet and your Earth. How fast time passes. On different planets in the universe, how quickly time passes varies. Can create a time difference. We call this the concept of time parallax, because this temporal parallax effect is naturally occurring. So it's also called natural time jet lag. There is a corresponding manual time difference. If the people of our planet measure, the time humidity is higher than that of your Earth. So when the flying saucer arrives on your Earth at the speed of light, people on our planet believe that it doesn't take 50 years to reach your Earth, but fly back from Earth. That would take over 50 years. Back and forth just cancel each other out. So you must think, there's no real use for this temporal parallax. If you think so, you are wrong. We're taking advantage of this temporal parallax effect. Make us on our planet. No need to wait 100 years at all. You can wait for the UFO to come back. Between the planets, the natural time parallax effect is very small, especially planets that are not that far away. It's even smaller. It has little value in practical applications. The formation of time parallax is relative motion. Since every planet is rotating, a relatively distant planet, there is a large rotational motion with a linear velocity. So our relatively distant planet, there will be a large time parallax. But we can obtain a large one manually. The temporal parallax effect. It can make it take 100 years to wait. Became less than an hour. We use manual field scanning. Illuminate the space around the saucer. To create an energy field. Put the flying saucer in this energy field. Artificially altering the time and space where the flying saucer is located. Make the time and space around the flying saucer and your Earth time and space. Creates a large time jet lag. So the flying saucer arrived on your Earth. It doesn't take 50 years at all. Can reach your Earth in a very short time. When the UFO returns to our planet from Earth, use the same method. Using the saucer's own equipment. Artificially changing the time lag around the UFO. Then fly back to our planet. So observers on our planet find. No need to wait 100 years at all. A flying saucer can fly in less than an hour. Come back in even less time. This depends on the strength of the energy field. To achieve the above manual manufacturing time difference. Make UFOs and Earth. Extraterrestrial planet formation time difference. You don't just have to be able to change space and time. The artificial field scan. It is also necessary to measure the temporal moderation of Earth and exoplanets. I don't understand what Soodle said at all.